Hello and welcome. You're watching Business Today Television. I'm Sakshi Batra. This is BTS Behind the Scenes, a show where we share a sneak peek into the latest edition of the Business Today magazine with all our viewers. This edition, ladies and gentlemen, is a special edition where we have done the BTMDRA annual ranking of India's best business schools. And to give you a sneak peek, this is the edition that I already have in my hands as well. This is already out on the stands. I hope that you too get a chance to grab this copy as soon as possible. Now, what is the key insight from this is something that we are going to be discussing on the very show. Remember, the history of management education in India dates back to almost 1949, but the rise of business schools is now closely linked to the 1991 economic reforms. From around 4 dozen then to around 3,540 recognized ones today, the sector has expanded massively. And this edition is now looking at reimagining to reflect the shifts that are happening and are reshaping the management education at large, how the traditional 2-year MBAs are now sharing space with move towards more continuation of education. Hence, this issue is already listing the best online courses, executive education offerings out there for all of you as well. So, to all our viewers who are either MBA school aspirants, B school aspirants, those who are already in it, and in the corporate world as well, this edition is definitely going to be a lot insightful for all of you. Let me now welcome my special colleague on the show. We have Krishna Gopalan, executive editor of Business Today magazine, who's going to be breaking down all these key insights for you and what to expect in this edition. Truly, Krishna, warm welcome. Good to have you with us. This is one of the edition that is really looked forward to by a wide range of our viewers, from students to those who are probably owners of the business schools to even corporate industry, India Inc. at large. This is something that everybody really looks to find out as well. I want to start off by understanding from you, first up, about the disruption that is the key highlight in this edition's rankings as well. From traditional MBA schools to what are they expecting in this new world order? Give us an insight of what do we expect.
Thank you, Sakshi. Nice to be here. At the outset, I think this has to be the most reliable ready reckoner for India's best business schools. I think we must state that at the outset. We've been at it for decades now, and the Business Today issue is something that's eagerly looked forward to by the industry, and we obviously have a very prominent place of standing. I'd like to mention that very clearly before anything else. The big ticket story for us is the fact that IIM Ahmedabad and XRA are back in terms of taking part in a survey, which is a big one, and we managed a significant breakthrough to that extent. They've done remarkably well in the rankings as well, so that's obviously more than one reason to be happy. Coming to your question of disruption, Sakshi, I think it's interesting because the world is in the middle of the throes of digital, AI, and all of it together. I don't think any of us anticipated technological disruption at this scale or this pace ever. But the fact is, management institutes therefore need to up their game. So it could be in the form of the syllabus, it could be in the issue of getting feedback from companies in terms of what kind of students will now make the job market of being the most efficient bunch of people to hire right now. So I'm just going to cite a few examples. In the past, marketing programs, at least the last 10 years, brought in courses like digital marketing, sports marketing, and the finance programs had in mergers, acquisitions, corporate finance, or even subjects related to work in a hedge fund and all of it. All that is now changing quite obviously because AI is now an integral part of the syllabus. Entrepreneurship forms a core part of the syllabus again because a lot of students we see end up becoming entrepreneurs right after the program or choose to work for a year or two before kind of getting into entrepreneurship sheet in that sense. So I think the way management institutes have had to reorient their syllabus, reorient their talent pool, and to make themselves even more relevant to the world outside is something we really are attempting to focus on.
Absolutely. I think for all our viewers to understand, it's IIMA and XLRI that have both returned to participating in that index as well, and that's something that you should be watching out for. Another key insight is that the oldest B schools that we've had in the country, IIM Ahmedabad as well as IIM Calcutta, both are now on the first and the second position this time around as well, and that's what we have featured too. Any other surprises? What have you noticed here, Krishna, before we go ahead and detail for all our viewers, more insights as to the world of MBAs and B schools is concerned?
So actually, now that you mentioned it, IIM Ahmedabad and IIM Calcutta are 6 decades young. So just think of
Yeah.
it. We've been there for over. So that's a big one. In terms of key takeaways, I think the fact that ISB's one-year program, I think, has only done even better. So I think the industry sees merit in that. There have been some concerns and pretty legitimate ones in terms of the rising cost of an MBA, something which perhaps you mentioned 1991. The cost of education since then has moved up quite remarkably. So that is an apprehension in the mind of the students and the parents if they have to cut that kind of a check for an MBA. So I think the whole payoff matrix, if I may say so, in terms of the salaries that come to the student at the end of the program against the kind of money that's been paid is a parameter they might want to look at very closely. The other bit is on AI to understand how institutes now have to deal with something like ChatGPT, because we've spoken to deans at
Yes.
institutes and they specifically said project work which has been done at ChatGPT obviously makes a compromise on quality. So now they've actually come up with more innovative methods where one part of a discussion in the classroom will be devoid of the mobile phone or devoid of any kind of technology. So they just put the grey matter to work and nothing else. So I think that's a welcome step, because ultimately I think all the deans we spoke to had one unanimous feedback to say that we can't take on technology. You can't look at technology as a foe. But we have to understand that technology has its limits, and as long as it doesn't come in the way of the smartness of a student, you're okay. It shouldn't become a lazy way of learning, is the way they put it to us.
And
So,
Krishna, you rightly very pointed out. I mean, this brings us to the central question of how relevant is an MBA degree from top B schools today when we are seeing disrupting industries emerging, the world of AI probably changing every industry out there, forcing them to reimagine themselves as to how they function. A lot of jobs already are getting impacted. We are seeing globally how technology is wiping out a lot of them. Big tech players are going through a massive layoff phase in the last couple of years that we have seen, and I'm sure that this is a developing space. We still do not know what kind of jobs will sustain, what kind of jobs will not, and therefore it's important to understand, even if one gets out with that top B school degree, will that person be relevant in this new AI age and disruptive world?
so actually, in the past, the greatest thing about an MBA degree was the fact it was eclectic. You had courses in finance, you had courses in HR, you had courses in consumer behavior. So it gave the student the complete canvas to read a whole host of subjects and then decide what he wanted to do. You could have very well done marketing for 2 terms, but suddenly fell in love with mergers and acquisitions and moved to a course of finance. I think if the MBA program continues to be eclectic, it'll automatically remain relevant to the world outside. But that's easier said than done, because the as you rightly mentioned, it's not the scale of change, but just the pace at which it's happening is something that the institutes have to come to terms with. Students are getting more demanding, companies are getting more demanding, and also I think we're coming to a point where the time spent by a student in a company is also starting to drop. So we have too many balls up in the air in that sense, if I may say so, and institutes have to come to terms with it. But fundamentally, if the eclectic nature of the program is preserved, it's game on. But as I said, that's anything but a walk in the park.
Absolutely. I think the biggest and the toughest, question for a lot of aspirants at this point in time also is, to see, one of the things is that getting into a top MBA institute is the most toughest thing that they find. First of all, to make so much of an effort, and whether that will result in your top choice of schools or not. And secondly is the monetary, the financial aspect of it, the rising costs of these MBA educations. I think what we mentioned in our edition is that the course fee at top tier schools have risen nearly 23% in the past 5 years. How are you, sharing all those insights to all our viewers who may be now aspirants and are looking at this aspect as a deciding factor?
So actually, there used to be a joke at one point. Getting into a B school was one thing, getting out was far tougher. So that explains the rigor of the curriculum actually. So I'm saying if the students can get themselves prepared for the rigor of a curriculum of that nature, it automatically makes them very well equipped for the job market. And that's exactly where the institutes need to up the game. Now, to come to your question, yes, it's an expensive program, but if the pay packages are going to be that attractive, the payoff is quite clear. But the point is, the student has to make himself relevant. I think what is often forgotten is the bit that getting into B school is one thing, but you also have to end up doing very well in the classroom. If you're going to be at the bottom of the batch, the good jobs are not going to come your way. So it is incumbent on the student to put his or her best foot forward to get the best out of the program. I think that's the beauty of the MBA program in terms of flexibility, because the syllabus is out there. It's left to you in terms of how much you want to get out of the classroom. So the moment you get the best out of it, it's fine. For the moment, there's no clear replacement for MBA, which is why the money that comes seems justifiably higher. But how long that remains is going to be a question which will continue to be debated. But like I said earlier, the moment the syllabus is in tune, the moment it's eclectic, and the moment the students see merit in it, continue to see merit in it, companies will happily lap up the talent.
Okay, and give us an understanding of how are overseas schools placed then in the conversation when it comes to deciding as to whether you want to invest so much of time, energy, and go through the stress of getting into a top B school in India. In case you can just afford it, could you just make your things easier, or life easier for yourself in case you just choose an overseas education format?
So actually, it's not commonly known. Harvard University, for example, has a batch size of 900 students. So which means the probability of a person getting in with a good GMAT score and good work experience and let's say good grades is pretty high. But that said, it also comes with a pretty stiff tariff package, if I may say so, because the fee outgo therefore is about $250,000. We are speaking of upwards of 2 crores. So all said and done, the advantage of global exposure does exist. The networking effort in terms of creating your peer group, the old boys network, all that is well taken. But the student ultimately has to take the call in terms of wanting to stay back in the US, for example, or come back. By and large, the big ticket B schools are housed in the US. There's INSEAD in Europe and in Singapore. You have a couple of good Bs. In fact, getting into a top Indian institute is far tougher than going overseas for an MBA. So I mean, less than 1% make it of the number of students who actually end up taking the entrance. So it's as difficult as that. So, but at the same time, like you have to balance the monetary part of it.
Absolutely, I agree with that. And Krishna, one more point is that, a lot of people out there, young, guns are actually looking at the disruption the world is going through. It was initially seen that once you pursue an MBA degree and have that, then you think of becoming an entrepreneur. But things have changed so vastly over the last 5 years, 10 years, that a lot of young people straight out of their graduation are already wanting to set up their own, companies and, being entrepreneurs even before the MBA degree. We've seen what has happened with the recent listing of Physics Wala and how, it was a college dropout, person who's actually now went on to create one of the most valuable education institutions that's listed on the stock exchanges. So all of this is happening. And therefore, the big question as to whether, again, these degrees are relevant anymore.
Sakshi, Bill Gates himself was a Harvard dropout.
Yeah.
So I'm saying, but to that extent, I think where MBA schools have done well is you can perhaps get started straight after, let's say, a BCom or a BA and then set up a business. But now they have, let's say, a 2-year family business program, or they have a 1-year program of entrepreneurship. So the institutes are trying to be flexible and malleable at the same time to ensure that the best talent continues to come in. And as long as the students see merit in the MBA, so I think it's again the whole argument, isn't it? Is work experience good for an MBA, or is it good to come in as a fresher? Because and both the schools of thought seem to have interesting perspectives. But end of the day, I think the institutes can make themselves more interesting to students, regardless of your academic background. I think it's a pretty good situation to be in. It's not an easy situation to be in simply because India as a market cannot be compared to any other market in the world because the nature of demand is so uniquely different. But that's it, institutes have to rise to the occasion to make themselves more relevant in this very, very competitive world.
In fact, the group editor of Business Today, Mr. Siddharth Zarabi, also in an exclusive chat with Professor Bharat Bhasker, who's the director at IIMA, did speak to him about how well are traditional B schools, positioned in this ongoing transition that we are seeing at this point in time. Let's listen into what he had to say in that exclusive chat.
Professor Bhasker, therefore, as far as the entire Indian management education ecosystem is concerned, do you think it is well positioned in this ongoing transition that we are seeing?
I would say there are always layers of the management education, or management education institutes. Now, yes, the top end management education institutes are actually preparing themselves and trying to brace the new reality and trying to transform as quickly as possible to the new reality. Of course, there will be places or a layer of management education which is always lagging behind and takes some time to catch up. So I think we are well positioned for the transition era, but in the transition era, the whole transition has to happen not only at the top end management education institutes, but of others as well. And that's where the top management education institutes have to play a role in also, I would say, educating, but also bringing them along the other management education institutes ecosystem, so that overall country's economy gains rather than only the top management educations are able to provide for the high-end industry and others are slightly left behind.
All right, you heard it from Professor there, but let me also list out a few names out for all of you to see out of the 100 list of top B schools that we've marked out in this edition. We have IIMA, like I marked out, it's on the first position. IIM Calcutta at the second position among the top 10 B schools. We have also IIM Lucknow at the third position, SPJIMR Institution of Management and Research at the next position. We also have IIM Indore, that's at the fifth spot this time. Xavier School of Management Jamshedpur at the sixth spot. Management Development Institute Gurgaon, followed by Indian Institute of Foreign Trade, New Delhi. And we also have SVKM's NMIMS, that's the School of Business Management Mumbai at the next spot, that's the ninth spot. And the last spot on the top 10 list is IIM Shillong as well. And there are many such lists on this edition. You will find top 10 private schools, top 10 public schools or the government-owned schools. You will also find a list of top 10 courses from online within the Management Institute and the executive programs as well. So it is a comprehensive list of all B schools that you really need to look at and understand about as well. Krishna, we will thank you then for being with us on the show and for detailing for all our viewers out as to what to expect in this edition. I've said it before, I will say it again. This edition is something that you must go out there on the stands. It's already hit the stands near you and grab your copies. Many thanks for being with us on this edition, viewers.